up, Leafs fans, and welcome to another episode of Leafs Digest. I'm here with Josh Goodwin, and we're breaking down Leafs vs. Canucks, Game 51 of the season. Goody, we're fast approaching on the playoffs here. Leafs are rolling, honestly, at this point. We've got huge performances from the top guys on the team. There's not much to complain about. The team looks good on all aspects of the ice. The power play, even though they didn't score tonight, they only had one. Pucks were still moving pretty well. They were able to enter the zone. Goaltending looked good from Jack Campbell. Defense played solid all around. I don't really have any complaints, but that being said, the big story about tonight, I would have to say, is Auston Matthews. Another big performance from him. He puts up 2 goals tonight, leading his season tally to 38, leading the NHL in goals, 38 goals in personal 47 games played. At what point can we just officially crown Auston Matthews as the best goal scorer in the NHL, overtaking Alex Ovechkin? Because personally, I'm ready to do it right now.
I'm fully with you. And the crazy thing that I always say, I get a ton of flack for it. I say that he's in the McDavid tier. It's him and McDavid. I know everyone's saying McKinnon as well. I would put him in that tier too. But I think the goal scoring of Auston Matthews, you look at what's harder to do in the sport of hockey, is clearly burying the puck. You get a secondary assist. We know how much that's helped the careers of a lot of guys. And it's not like you don't deserve it. I fully see it. I respect it. But Matthews does what's hardest. And you can watch him out there scoring these goals. No one's doing it like he is right now. It's on command. The hand-eye is insane. He's incorporated a much better one-timer over the past 2 seasons into his bag. And it's showing in the goal totals. I'm fully on the bandwagon there, Philly. I think he is among the elite of the elite.
I honestly, that's a good point that you brought up. The one-timer that he's added to his game, I think, has been so crucial to his goal-scoring success, because it's not that he didn't have it before. Like, you can't look at him and be like, oh, man, this guy can't shoot the one-timer. Like, I remember Phil Kessel, the days with Phil Kessel on the Leafs. The guy was using, like, a youth hockey stick, basically, and could never shoot one-timers. Like, he had a disgusting shot, don't get me wrong, but you look and be like, don't give him a one-timer, because he's not shooting, like, he's not going to take it. He's got to take a snapshot, basically. But I have to disagree with you. I don't think that you can put Auston Matthews in the McDavid territory, and here's going to be my reasoning why. I think in the peak performance of Crosby and Ovechkin, you could put the two of them at the top there, and you could definitively say Crosby, Ovechkin are in their own territory. Crosby probably a little bit above Ovechkin, based on all-around play, essentially. But I would break it down more to McDavid, 1, Matthews, Crosby, Ovechkin, McKinnon. I'm probably missing some others right now that would make sense in that territory, but I would think that those guys are on a tier below him. I think, personally, McKinnon in the play that he's had and how dominant he's been, especially with the playoffs that he had last year, is pushing towards McDavid. And I also think that the way Matthews is playing more all around is really edging himself up towards that McDavid territory. I don't think you're far off by saying that. I don't think it's a ridiculous take. I just don't think right here, right now, I would sit here and say, yeah, Auston Matthews, McDavid, they're definitively that top tier above the league. I still personally see McDavid as ahead, but that's as all around play. But I have to agree with you as goal scoring goes, I don't think there's anybody in the NHL better than Auston Matthews. He's so dominant with the puck, even just like takeaways. Like, his offensive game is now so well supplemented by his defensive game that he is able to use that in the offensive zone to turn it into goal scoring, turn it into easy goals, and like manufacture these things for himself. That it just only adds to his goal scoring. Like, realistically, the defense that he's able to play and how strong he is on the puck and how even smart he is away from the puck really just like adds to his overall ability to score goals. I don't even know how to explain it at this point. It's just like he plays so well all around that pushes him towards the McDavid territory that it just makes him a better goal scorer. And it's really like he's showing flashes of what Ovechkin did in the year that he won the cup and the years leading up to him winning the cup, of being like, this is how I have to play as a complete player, and I can also be an insane goal scorer if I'm going to have team and more personal success. So like, I just think like his overall dominance all around is just leading him to just be far and above the rest of the league in terms of goal scoring. I'm giving Matthews the crown as the best goal scorer in the NHL right now, hands down. I can't even see anybody else coming close right now.
Well, we can agree on that for sure. But when we're going back to this McDavid argument, if you're the Leafs, and I know this isn't the universal standard of who's better, but right now for the Leafs, to put it in perspective of how good Matthews is, if I had the option to welcome on McDavid to the roster and sub out Matthews, or to keep Matthews the rest of the way, I know if you were to just cut all the sentimental ties out of it, just strictly strategically, who would be of more value? I'm keeping Auston Matthews. I have enough playmakers. I have enough guys who can go get their own offense. I think at that point, Matthews, who does the harder thing to do, being scoring at a record-setting pace for the Leafs, he's got the highest margin of Leafs goals scored in a season for the team in their franchise history, and it's in the season that they're in first.
Yeah.
We don't talk about winning being huge criteria enough in hockey because it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
But it really does matter. And Matthews is showing right now why it's so important. And also you talk about the puck retrieval skills. That stuff is off of the charts. I know everyone talks about Hyman being the guy who needs to go out and dig it out of the corner for him, which is true. But Matthews increasingly is going and getting it himself. He is really sneaky, a top defender in the NHL.
Yeah, he really is. And then on top of that, like transitioning into his line mate, someone who has been detrimental to the success that he has had this season and even part of last season once Sheldon Keefe came in and really mixed up the lines and then gave his like creative interpretation of what the lines were supposed to be, shuffling them at random, putting guys like Marner and Matthews together and saying, why would we not put our best playmaker with our best goal scorer? Like that was just idiotic by Mike Babcock, but like that's probably something you and I will have to get into at another point. But Mitch Marner, watching him tonight, I feel like Marner is back to his like 2016 London Knights days when he put up 116 points that year. It's way different to look at the stat totals this year, and like he's in the NHL. He has 64 points in 51 games played this year, and you look at guys above him in the points race, like you literally have McDavid and Draisaitl up there. He's not where they're at. McDavid on pace for probably 100 points this year. Insanity. But the way he skates around the ice, the defensive plays that he makes, the little moves here and there, like I don't know if you saw, there was a play in the third period. Foligno goes in the corner, retrieves the puck, passes the puck out to Marner. He grabs it from behind him, pulls it between the legs, and tries to make a backhand shot on net. And it wasn't even just like a little flutter flick shot on net. It was like a legitimate scoring chance that was created almost out of nothing because this guy just has the confidence and the courage to make that play because he knows how strong he is at carrying the puck. And even going back to Matthews' second goal, the one that deflected off of Edler in front, Marner forces the play in the corner on Edler, steals the puck off of him, and then has the patience to pull the puck out from a defender attacking him and the defender pressing him up front, not force a shot or a wraparound on net, essentially look off Nick Foligno coming in short side right there. Like Foligno was coming in, kind of had a shot, and still threads the needle to Matthews like backdoor because he knows, hey, that's my goal scorer. That's the guy who's most likely to put the puck in the net here. Just watching Marner do these things, I think people really love his game, but I think some of those things go very underappreciated, even just as far as going in and pressuring Edler in the corner and starting it there and turning it into the offense. I think Mitch Marner is looking so much more confident every day, and the chemistry him and Auston Matthews is building up is beginning to be like, well, not even just beginning to be, but is one of the premier line combinations in the NHL. Even just those two guys. It doesn't even matter who the hell the third guy on that line is. Those two guys together is one of the best line combinations in the National Hockey League right now.
Oh, it's true. And to me, it's reminiscent of Semin and Ovi. I can totally see that, and the way that dynamic works, it's really that good. And another thing, too, about Matthews, when I'm thinking about how hot he is right now, I think he's really coming to the point where he's bridging the gap to a consistently amazing player. But we've got to realize that in the past, he's had these 10 to 12 game streaks where he goes off the charts, red hot, disappears for like 4 to 5 games. And people always say, where's Matthews at? Matthews, it's really quick to call him out. And we're going to look at where he's at right now with his scoring and wonder. If history repeats itself, we might be looking at a cool off going into playoffs. So you got to peak at the right time. But Matthews, he's admittedly streaky. I know I'm not saying he's not talented and not a whiz kid. He's all of that. But I'm really worried that, he's going to cool off going into his series just because it's the natural trajectory of how he's played over his career so far. Hopefully an irrational fear, but it's something that's crossed my mind for sure.
Just to put a damper on that fear that you have, Matthews this season has not gone 5 games. So he's gone up to 4 and 4 included, but he hasn't gone 5 games or more without scoring a goal. So yeah, I know, I see what you're saying, but there's 5 games left in the season, and playing with somebody who's as hot and like smart of a hockey player as Mitch Marner is, I don't think that's something we necessarily need to be fearing about. And I also think that Auston Matthews, is someone who ups the intensity come playoff time. In his first season in the NHL, his second season in the NHL, learning to play in the NHL playoffs is a different beast. And I don't think you can fault him for being like, oh, well, why didn't you score all these goals? Like, he still had big moments. You look at that Washington series, he still scored big goals. And he doesn't need to score 2-3 every single night. A lot of times it comes down to a timely goal. And someone like that, having Mitch Marner on his line who can bring that chemistry like with him, I think is going to be such a beneficial factor to that line, and something that to him can help him avoid slumps, and once playoffs comes can really help him stay away from it, especially if they keep Nick Foligno on that line. Because even you watch the way Foligno plays tonight, like, this guy is not afraid to go in the corner or to get the puck or to hit a guy, and he's also skilled. He's probably a little bit more skilled than Hyman. He can score more goals better at a better clip than Hyman can, and he's there to really help that line in a veteran way. Like, Hyman is great there because they probably play a similar role, but Foligno has the veteran experience to look at those two guys off the draw and say, boys, you're doing everything right here. It's gonna come. And just calm those nerves, because he's been there. Whereas like Hyman, he's not going to come up to Matthews and Marner and be like, don't worry, boys, like the goals are going to come. It's not having the same effect.
I won't lie. I think that Hyman is going to be, I mean, I know we're not speaking of Foligno as like a direct replacement necessarily for Hyman. He was added into the picture before all that. He's going to be a big part of it regardless. But I think we are going to miss what Hyman would have done. I think that at this point, Hyman's more skilled. He's going to give you more goals. I know what we're saying about Foligno. It's like the intangibles kind of deal. But I think that we're going to really miss Zach Hyman, and it might not show until 2 to 3 games into the playoffs, because he's a heart guy, right? He's all hustle. And I'm not saying Foligno isn't, but Hyman's at a point where he's consistently over 25 goals a season, and he looks great. And he's really found chemistry with Mitch and Auston. So, it's one of those things where it worries me a little bit. I'm happy to have Foligno nonetheless. I think it's a great step for the team in general. But I think we're going to miss Hyman big time. I don't think that Foligno is going to be able to do exactly what Hyman does on the ice.
Just before we go into the next point, I think that Hyman is supposed to be back for the playoffs. So I'm pretty sure that he's supposed to be able to be back, and I don't think if he will miss anything, I don't think he's going to miss too much. So I think we'll be okay there. But I don't know. My personal perspective on just like the playoff situation is I kind of think Hyman can go on that third line and just wreak havoc there and drive that line. And I think that's kind of an opportunity for the Leafs to have 3 full lines that can just create chaos every time they're on the ice, because Hyman doesn't have to be like a tertiary player on that line. He can be the primary guy, and he can just go out there and shoot the puck and go and try and dangle and hit guys and jam pucks in. And I think like that's kind of where that's just personally where I see him suited going in.
Well, and for the first time ever, I think you could be right that if you were to put Hyman down as a solo show into the bottom half of your forward lineup, you could start to see him take on a leading offensive role. But in seasons previous to this, I probably would have said no way you'd get the same value playing him in that bottom half. This season, I think you're right. He's made that jump, which is why I'm like, Foligno actually, I don't think can stack up skill-wise to Hyman at this point, because he's made that big of a leap. And the developments have been really steady. But this year, I think you're actually right. You could get a lot of efficiency out of using him in the bottom half of the lineup, like a third line wrecking ball, like you're saying. I think that could happen. That could be useful. In previous seasons, I would have shut it down right away, and I would have said he needs to play with Matthews or Tavares, someone that's going to bury in front of the net and help him. But I think I'm open to it. If he comes back, and I don't know the timeline on his knee. I've heard some really varying things about the severity of the injury. Only time will truly tell. But I'm praying he's back in the lineup for the start of playoffs, because it's going to make a crazy difference. We've seen what he's done this season. To me, it's one of the most impressive storylines of the team this year.
Yeah, his emergence and like how dominant he's been, and his ability to drive lines, and even just like the use up and down the lineup has been so impressive from his standpoint to watch. It's kind of amazing to sit back and be like, wow, this one guy can make that much of an impact all the way throughout the lineup. But speaking of guys who have made a huge, huge impact on this team, and I think personally this guy has gone very under the radar in what he's done, is TJ Brodie. And one of the best things I think I've seen out of TJ Brodie, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base is one of the most insane, in the best way, but insane. Like, I don't even know what the right word would be to just describe them. Like, they will just eat people alive for things.
It's like British soccer fans.
Yeah, like they just will attack and just nip at your heels until they get to the point of you can't stand up anymore, and they just eat you. But TJ Brodie has been so good for the Toronto Maple Leafs. This guy has scored 1 goal this season. How many times have you heard any radio station, any TV show, any tweet say anything or complain about TJ Brodie scoring 1 goal this season? Personally, not once. Not once have I heard anyone complain about TJ Brodie scoring 1 goal, and that is how good this guy has been. He's so consistent, other than that little stretch at the beginning of the season where he didn't start too hot and he was trying to find his groove. After that, and he smoothed it all out and he figured out where he fits and what his role is with the Leafs, I've been so impressed by him, his defensive play, the way he skates with the puck, the poise he has, his ability to make breakout passes and just disrupt plays, even just the slight physicality that he has. He's not going out there and blowing guys through the boards, but just to break things up and getting guys' ways. I've been so impressed with TJ Brodie, and I think this acquisition is far and above the acquisition of Tyson Barrie last year.
Definitely. Well, Tyson Barrie, he's undersized and he's an offensive-minded defenseman. Mm-hmm. We acquired a guy that on paper would seem like it would fit right, like, right-handed defenseman, very highly touted.
Score
it
lots.
Made sense. Exactly. It made sense why we would do it. And to this day, I actually don't blame Leafs management. Like the Kadri trade, someone said, do you consider that like one of the biggest trade hiccups for the Leafs in recent past? No way. I don't think Kerfoot's a bad player. Obviously, he's not the player Kadri is. Mm-hmm. But I don't blame us at all for rolling the dice on Tyson Barrie at the time. Yeah. But to bring it back to what we're talking about now, we weren't getting what we needed with Tyson Barrie. It was just like a real Band-Aid kind of method. We are going and getting a guy who doesn't need to be built up by the media, who can take a rough start at the beginning of the year and can find his way. He's got all the signs of a veteran, and that's what we love about TJ Brodie. We didn't need someone to come fill the stat sheet. I mean, you talk to anyone we signed in the offseason, and Joe Thornton said it best. He was like, oh, they didn't bring me in to outscore Auston Matthews. Like that. Yeah. And obviously Brodie's coming in as a defenseman, but we're not coming in here saying, hey, go run our power play for us right out the gate. Things can happen, but he was brought in to be a defensive presence, and we've seen that the whole way through. And to transition a little bit toward another guy who I think has been holding it down super great for us, Rasmus Sandin. We talked about him on the last pod. We were making big mention of how many liberties get taken on this kid by the opposing players and how he's starting to throw the reverse check a little bit.
Yeah.
Tonight, he gets face planted into the glass, got some stitches, comes back out. The next time someone tries to make a hit on him, he reverse hits them. I just love to see it. We're speaking this into existence. He's adapting. He's fed up, like I said, and I don't blame him one bit. I love to see it happening. He got a chance to play the other night, obviously, with Brodie, which was pretty cool. He's rising to challenges that I didn't see even coming his way. So I'm really happy about him as well. The defense for the first time in what feels like forever for the Leafs it seems airtight.
Yeah, and on top of that, like Sandy, you mentioned him taking hits and getting rubbed out a bunch is like one thing I notice about that is that's happening because he's willing to take the hit to make the play. This is a guy who follows through the play and gets himself in a position to be hit and isn't afraid to take on the hit. He typically absorbs them pretty well, and he's obviously shown resilience and grit to be able to get in there and like have his nose blown up, go to the locker room, get stitches, come back, play like nothing happened, still go in there and make plays like nothing happened. Like he doesn't care. He just pushes on. And I just think as this goes on, he's going to learn to become more of a veteran in the league. He's going to understand how to avoid those checks more so without sacrificing making the play. And he's going to be able to go in there and like make the plays that he's making without taking as much impact on himself, just as he continues to learn and develop in the league. And I think this time that he's taking right now with Zack out to get as many minutes as he can and as much NHL ice time is going to benefit not only him, but the Leafs in the long run. I think this is going to be an opportunity for him to make a statement come the playoffs and maybe get some time there, as well as push to be one of the top defensemen on this team going forward in the upcoming years. But I've loved what I've seen from Rasmus Sandin in the last couple of games.
Yeah, he's been amazing for us, for real. And like I said, we didn't necessarily see this coming. This was an on-the-fly thing because of Bogosian. Everyone's sort of had a close eye on Sandin. I think more so last year. And this year, we just looked so tight on the blue line that it became less of a hot topic. But we're reminded of why we drafted this kid, why everyone was so excited about him last season. It's coming back to fruition. I like it. And I hope it carries over into the playoffs for as long as we need it to.
Yeah, well, Leafs Digest, that's all we have for this episode. Recapping Leafs versus Canucks game 51 of the season. Leafs beat the Canucks pretty handedly, 5-1, coming back from early first period goal from the Canucks, going down 1-0, but then storming back and just leaving absolutely no doubt. Goals, Auston Matthews grabs himself 2, gets to 38 on the season, pushing for 40 in a 56 game season. Adam Brooks gets himself on the board again tonight, and Alex Galchenyuk tallies another one to just continue to try to make a case to be in the lineup come playoff time. Good performance all around from the boys. Jack Campbell, stellar in net. Big defensive performances, no holes there really. And honestly, I'm real happy with what we're seeing from this team tonight. That's exactly what you have to do to a team like Vancouver. Tired right now, playing lots of games in few nights, coming back from the COVID situation. You got to just take it to them right away. Obviously, coming back from a goal early is a big thing because it almost just shows like that, hey, boys, it's okay. We're not going to lose this one. So, goodie, that's all we have for this episode. Love doing this with you. And we'll see you guys after the next game.
Signing off.